School discipline relates to action taken by the school or teacher involving the zero tolerance policy. The common belief of the zero tolerance policy is that students will be less likely to engage in criminal activities and create good behavior.
30 years ago, many schools were fed up with crime and violence.
Just about every month there's a gun, some type of gun.
And the government called for more police and zero tolerance for violence at school.
Zero tolerance means you don't put up with anything. If the student broke the rules, you wouldn't tolerate it, you just put them out.
We see in history there has been an increase in violence. Further, with a long-standing history of white privilege, most practice cultural norms how to behave and act stem from white cultural practices, therefore bringing in punitive measures which focus on punishment instead of restorative justice. These norms have adapted corporal punishment, which has been used as a method of school discipline. While the idea of zero tolerance in order for student success seems harmless, a closer look reveals that current disciplinary techniques unjustly target students of color. A study among 74,000 10th grade students showed that 56% of colored students were suspended or expelled compared to only 19% being of other groups. To gain more information, we decided to interview individuals about their experience with school discipline. Which students receive the label troublemaker in regards to race, gender, and class?
Kids who don't care about grades, don't contribute, or hang around non-IB kids get in trouble. They're the ones who look like they don't try or care. They don't turn in homework or any projects, and they're always on their phone with their AirPods. Hispanic males are the ones I see get in trouble a lot.
The students that receive the troublemaker label, basically, it's usually males and people of color because that is the majority at my school. Another thing is, basically, I think that the minority is kind of centered at or something. Like if there's a white kid that basically does something, I think, and like another person of color does the same thing, I think a person of color will get a worse punishment because I have seen that happen at school. There was a fight between a black kid and a white kid. The black kid got arrested while the white kid was sent to the office.
And Holder saw something even more troubling in the data.
Black kids are 3 times more likely to be suspended or expelled than their white counterparts. They are much more likely to be treated harshly for the same conduct.
To see the way students are currently being disciplined, we asked, when students get in trouble, what forms of consequences are used by your classroom teacher?
There's a whole table of bad kids,
Okay.
So that whole table is noisy and stuff, and then they get up in trouble a lot of times. But my teacher just makes them be more noisier when they get in trouble.
Whenever we're talking in class, they just tell us to shut up or be quiet. Sometimes they send people out of the classroom, and sometimes they forget that they're outside and forget to bring them back in. Or you have to do extra assignments as a punishment. And if you're tardy to first period, you get lunch detention. You have to go by yourself to school gym with nothing during lunch. You can't work on homework, you only sit there for either 15 minutes, or if you skip it, you miss 2 hours and your fourth period class.
You know, kids are kids. They do things that are disruptive. They do things that are bad sometimes. We put in place a series of zero tolerance policies that might have been aimed at gun violence, but that had a much more all-encompassing effect.
Do you believe that extreme disciplinary actions, suspension and expulsion, change the behaviors of students?
No, because they'll still be the same kids. They aren't going to stop because they were punished. It makes them more with a, I don't care what you say, snappy hatred towards teachers attitude.
And after getting, I guess, like a referral and almost getting suspended, I felt like I was less focused on school. I didn't care as much. I felt as though I was kind of wronged in a sort of way because I did want to be there at school. I did like learning. I didn't hate it. But the fact that they tried so hard to get me out of school, to like remove me, I didn't want to be there anymore.
If you are suspended or expelled, you're much more likely to drop out. If you drop out, you are much more likely to become involved in the criminal justice systems. And this has a huge, huge impact on the lives of young people.
Severe punishment can have very negative effects on a child, especially in the younger grades. Suspension and/or expulsion is not very common in the elementary levels. We deal with discipline issues more with a holistic approach. We look at how we can help the child by offering counseling, teaching the child to understand and deal with their problems, and to guide them to better solve their problems in situations that may often result in them acting in such a way that would get them suspended.
Whole life has been wrong someone and then run from it, wrong someone and not talk about it. I would tend to think that we are actually making them more on the hook.
You're not supposed to reward them by giving them free time. You should help them out and say, you know what, we're gonna keep you in school so you won't be behind.
You can't stop fighting. So then I reached out to our clinicians, our social workers and our counselor and our case manager, and I said, look at this. I need you to look at the behaviors that I'm seeing. Find out the trigger. What's triggering him to that point? And then once we found that out and I began to really look at it, it was time to stop talking about the problem and making a solution.